at the various law faculties at the university must be scrutinized to improve on performance.
I hold a fervent view that with the swell in the number of LLB holders, it has become imperative for us to rethink the delivery of legal education in Ghana. Indeed, the time has come for a proper scrutiny of the mechanisms for broadening access to legal education whilst safeguarding the integrity and quality of the profession. Any genuine attempt at the reform of professional legal education must first address the organization, scope and content of the LLB programs in the various law faculties or law schools.
A Justice of the Supreme Court, Mr. Justice Jones Doche, said reforms in the law program must also focus on quality control at the various LLB faculties.
The accreditation process of law faculties and universities be reviewed and tightened to ensure quality control and not merely issuing of degrees to students who may not be deserving of it.
The first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Mr. Joseph Osebusu, said Parliament will work with the General Legal Council and Attorney General to pass the Legal Professional Bill to reform the profession. The President, Nana Akufo-Addo, said reforms are needed at all times, but quality control must not be compromised.
A badly trained lawyer is a danger to society. A badly trained lawyer can cause untold damage to life and property. I've already asked the Attorney General to fast-track the process of consultations on the new legal professional bill and lay it before Cabinet and ultimately Parliament as soon as possible. This bill aims to address comprehensively the issues of legal education in Ghana today. It must dispel the notion that the legal profession is a guild, a small club of mostly men, which is difficult to penetrate.
An endowment fund to raise the pairs to support the University of Ghana Law School was unveiled, to which the President made a donation. A senior high school placement portal for the selection of schools by BECE candidates has been opened today. The two-week exercise by the Ghana Education Service is expected to end on December 14. The Ghana Education Service has also released the guidelines for the 2021 school selection process. In a statement, the Ghana Education Service said all senior high schools, senior high technical schools, and technical and vocational education and training institutions (TVET) had been placed in 4 categories A, B, C, and D. All candidates are to choose their first to fifth choices from schools in category A, B, and C in order of preference, and must have a program and accommodation preference of either day or boarding. Category A schools can only be selected once, while Category B schools can be selected twice. However, a candidate can select all 5 choices from Category C. The statement said candidates are to select a compulsory day school as 6th choice from Category D, or choose a boarding school from the list of schools in Appendix 3 of the 2021 Schools Register as special boarding. Appendix 3 contains special boarding schools that can be selected as boarding for the 6th choice. However, candidates who wish to offer TVET programs would have to select all 6 TVET schools from Category A, B, and C as day or boarding. The statement entreats parents and guardians to supervise their children and wards in the selection and filing process and ensure that they sign and submit the forms to their current junior high schools. The Kaneshie District Court has issued a bench warrant for the arrest of the Member of Parliament for Madina, Mr. Francis Xavier Susu. The court, presided over by Mr. Heneba Kufuor, gave the order after the MP, who is accused of unlawfully blocking a public road and destroying public property, failed to appear in court for a 3rd time. When the case was called on Monday, November 29, 2021, Mr. Victor Adawudu, lawyer for the Madina MP, Francis Xavier Susu, notified the court of a motion on notice challenging the court's jurisdiction to hear the matter. Meanwhile, Mr. Adawudu informed the court that the MP was absent because he was part of the parliamentary committee working on the anti-LGBTQI+ bill and was participating in the public hearing on Monday morning. The MP was represented by one Mr. Rahman in court. Prosecution led by ASP Sylvester Asari prayed the court to issue a bench for the arrest of Mr. Francis Sosu. According to the prosecutor, the case is a criminal matter and Article 167 of Act 30 gives the court the discretionary powers to issue a bench warrant. ASP Sylvester Asari argued that the MP was not in a capacity to have someone else represent him in court because he has a duty. In his ruling on the matter, Mr. Ohene Kufuor issued a bench warrant for the arrest of Mr. Francis Sosu. He said lawyers for the Medina MP promised to ensure he appears in court on the next sitting date, but failed to honor same. Sitting continues on January 12, 2022. Still at the court, the trial of the head pastor of the Glorious Word Power Ministry International, Pastor Isaac Owusu-Bempah, who has been charged for causing harm to police officers, has been set for January 19, 2022. The circuit court, presided over by Mrs. Rosemond Bar-Tosu, announced the date for trial after the prosecution filed and served on Pastor Owusu-Bempah and the 3 other accused persons all necessary disclosures and witness statements it intends to rely on.
In court on Monday, November 29, 2021, prosecution led by Chief Inspector Dennis Tekwete told the court that they were ready to call for their first witness, Mr. Kainja Welbeck Dauda, a police officer. Mr. Benyina, a lawyer for the accused persons, told the court that they had been served with all necessary documents for now. Pastor Owusu-Bempah, together with Michael Boatin, Frederick Ohene, and Nathaniel Ajikumo, pleaded not guilty to 2 charges each of abetment to cause harm and unlawful damage. They were granted 100,000 cedis bail each with a surety to justify. According to the facts of the case, the complainants are police personnel with intelligence unit of the Ghana Police Service at the police headquarters. Chief Inspector Dennis Tekwete narrated that Pastor Isaac Owusu-Bempah is the head pastor of the Glorious Word Power Ministry International, while 2nd, 3rd, and 4th accused persons are members of the church. He told the court that on September 9, 2021, the first accused, including some members of his church, including one Mr. Mensah Ofori, an associate pastor of the Glorious Word Power Ministry International, went to the residence of one Madame Patricia Odro Kranton, alias Nana Agrada, and threatened to kill her, with a video of the said threats going viral on social media. He said on September 12, the police identified some of the persons in the video, including the said Mensah Ofori and one Bright Birchie. The prosecutor said the complainants went to the church premises to arrest Mensah Ofori and Bright Edu Birchie. However, upon reaching the church, Pastor Owusu-Bempah is said to have ordered his church members to beat and kill the officers, an order the members are alleged to have carried out amid gunshots. According to the facts, the officers sustained injuries and were admitted to the hospital for some time. An investigation was carried out and the accused persons were arraigned over the matter. Sitting has been adjourned to January 19, 2022.
It's the second public hearing of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament on a series of memoranda for and against the anti-LGBTQI+ bill currently before the House. Proponents and opponents of the bill, including the MP for Pram-Pram, Mr. Sam George, and his colleague MPs who spearheaded the bill, the Executive Secretary of the National Coalition for Proper Human Sexual Rights and Family Values, Mr. Moses Fuamweni, and his group, SHRAJ, representatives from the Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference and representatives from the LGBTQI+ community made their points before the committee. Mr. Moses Fuamweni, a lawyer, and his group highlighted some of the medical and psychological orientations and implications of the practice.
One of the things this bill does is to protect our kids. Recently, the headmistress of Ola Girls could take it no more. And she's not the only headmistress. Several heads of schools are complaining about persons actively forming clubs under the guise of civil society organizations and offering commissions to students to recruit other students into lesbianism and homosexuality. How can this be said to be the privacy of two consenting adults? Two consenting adults get into the business of offering commission for the corruption of another man and woman's child? How can this be allowed to go on in our country? And Mr. Chairman, let no one tell you that they pose no threat to society.
Freedom of association is another fundamental freedom, which I see in the bill an attempt at preventing Ghanaians from associating. Section 104 has already criminalized the act. That is the position. So why then are provisions that will now bring other persons or other people when they are associated in one way or the other, like what happened in Ho?
No real homosexual will want to stay in what he's doing, because having sex through the anus, using the penis through feces, how can that be proper? Or a lady opening herself up to be licked by animals, that can't be right. So if the person says, I want to stay in it, then he needs help. There are those who want to glamorize. A lot of them have been paid to do, we'll give you the evidence at the right time. Indeed, when we said that the office had been closed, they have opened another office. $80,000 was used to purchase that office.
You're still watching News Hour live on GBC News. Apart from the exploitation of natural resources like minerals, oil, timber and water, a redesigning of some aspects of nature through human architecture and innovativeness have contributed immensely to the socio-economic development of many countries. On today's Tour Ghana series, we are taking you into a natural habitat of trees, shrubs and herbaceous plants as we remind ourselves of our heritage. We visit Bonsu, a community in the East Achim municipality of the Eastern region. The Arboretum is the heart of Bonsu, a predominantly farming community in the East Achim municipality in the Eastern region. The history of the Arboretum dates back to the early 1900s. The Arboretum is located 120 kilometers north of Accra and 150 kilometers south of Kumasi off the Accra-Kumasi Highway at the Bonsu Junction. The 40-acre forest reserve that hosts the Arboretum falls under the Achim Ebuakwa Traditional Council, who leased it to a mining firm in the early 20th century for surface mining before it was given to another company known as African Products Department for rubber and cocoa plantation in 1917. In 1946, the facility was acquired by the Plant Genetic Resource and Research Institute of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, which has managed it ever since.
In the year 1935, British Abrofuminu, Amia Agrek for Bakudidi the Vigilance, and Bakudidi.
Two British men by name David Gillett and Frank Thompson, agricultural researchers, used this place as a research center and named it Arboretum.
Research Center. Mudi Sayatin Arboretum no eto company no nsa nidin abaye Bonsu Eco Park. But we garden no na so we fit mudia the friend Bonsu Arboretum.
There are about 610 different species of trees. The herb garden is useful for food, medicine and aromatics. There are also 110 species of birds and 300 species of butterflies. The Arboretum hosts all indigenous trees found on Achim land. The trees are made up of timber species, medicinal, red trees and fruits. Half of the area is a semi-deciduous forest while the other half is made up of indigenous trees along with fruits, nuts, and timber tree species. The forest reserve has some of the rare tree species, including Garcinia cola, known locally as chiapia, reputed for its health benefits. Other tropical tree species found at the center include okri, mostly used for dugout canoes, and alpha and omega trees used for local sponge saporia. Among the cherished assets of the Arboretum is the 4-room self-contained guest house of the colonial architecture built by 2 Englishmen, Mr. Frank Thomas and Mr. David Gillett. There is a canoe walkway which started in 2014 as part of the Bunsu Arboretum Eco-Tourism Center. The canopy walkway is 280 meters long and 35 meters high, meandering through giant trees in the forest. It was completed in 2014 and is the second in Ghana after the Kakum National Park in the central region. For tourism attractions in the eastern region, 2 places often come to mind: the Ebri Botanical Gardens and the Boutique Waterfalls. Well, now you know about the Bunsu Arboretum, which attracts about 200 visitors on average during public holidays. The experienced tour guides have a fascinating history of the place. Many say perhaps with more investment, the Arboretum could become one of Ghana's major tourist attractions.
Did you know that it takes 3 minutes to discharge 3,000 gallons of water from a fire tender? This may be news to many, and hence the general perception that fire tenders often run out of water when fighting fire. Adding to this perception is that they also arrive at fire scenes late. However, the Benue East Regional Commander of the Ghana National Fire Service, DCO George Enim Frimpong, believes this is due to lack of understanding of the operations of the service. DCO Enim Frimpong hopes people will fully understand the operations to appreciate their activities.
Firefighting, extinguishment and rendering humanitarian services is the primary duty of the Ghana National Fire Service, established in 1963 by Act 219. In 1997, the Ghana National Fire Service Act, Act 537, was enacted to re-establish the Ghana National Fire Service with the objective of preventing and managing undesired fires and other related matters with an expanded mandate. Even though the service continues to perform its role, majority of the public see more of its firefighting role than humanitarian services. It is these firefighting activities that the public claim the firefighters more often than not arrive at fire scenes rather late and also run out of water during their operations. However, the Benue East Regional Commander of the Ghana National Fire Service, DCO George Enim Frimpong, says it is a wrong perception.
Like the one that we have here, it contains water and a chemical called foam concentrate. And these 2 items are in the fire tender. It means we have water chamber and then the foam compound chamber. So when there is fire, because the car is huge, people think everything in the car is water, but that is not how it is. And apart from the 2 chambers containing water and then the foam concentrate, now the driver apartment is there, the crew apartment is there, and then equipment apartment is also there. So as you see it, it contains a lot of things. However, this 3,000 gallons of water, it takes only 3 minutes to empty the tank. Only 3 minutes. Because the volume of water that comes out per the 3 minutes is enough. And therefore, when something happens and somebody wants to come and have a look at it, by the time the person runs to the place, then the water is finished. So the person has nothing to say than to accuse us that we did not come with water. That is why the public is always accusing us. There is no way the appliance will be there without water. No. Water is our weapon. It's like the military man having his gun and the bullets. So as we have to also get water always in the fire tender. So in case of any fire call, that is what you're going to use. So why then do we keep the appliance empty until fire outbreak before we fill the tank? It's never done.
Another concern of firefighters in the country is the limited number of water hydrants in the system and also people tampering with a few in the system.
When you get to Techima market, very big market, we have only one fire hydrant in the market. People don't know the essence of it. So there is one at Techima Stadium. We went there during hydrant inspection, and somebody covered it with boards and then placed his wares on it, selling. So we asked him, why did he do that? Then he said, people normally throw rubbish in it. So it is just in front of his store. Then he covered it and put the items on it and sell. And we asked him the essence of it. He only said, oh, I know there is something in, but what is in, he doesn't know it.
How can this perception be corrected?
It's the mindset of the public. They are not heeding to our advice. Like now that you are with me and we are talking about fire education, so many people will get to know it. Yet the question is, will they comply?
Firefighting equipment and service tenders vary. However, currently, Ghana has only two types, the water tender and the dual purpose tender. Peggy Amadonko.
Yeah, more news coming up, please stay.
The journey to our centenary.
MTN and Whirlpool start business with some post-budget fallouts. And the Institute of Social, Statistical and Economic Research, ISA, is urging government to reduce the e-levy from the 1.75% to 0.5% as the budget hangs in the balance. According to the research body, the 1.75% is punitive and threatens financial inclusion. Director of ISA, Professor Peter Korte, wants the government to return to the collection of road tolls with the introduction of automation.
The rate is on the high side, in my view, is punitive, 1.75, and we want to understand how this rate was arrived at. We believe if we reduce the rate and people pay with little hesitance, because as for tax, nobody wants to pay tax, right from the days of Matthew. Nobody wants to pay tax, but any reasonable tax rate is acceptable. People will pay. So we believe the rate should be reviewed downwards so that many people will use the service, continue to use the service, and government can rake in the needed revenue. So that's the main thing, the e-levy.
Meanwhile, ISA wants the majority and minority in Parliament to build consensus on the 2022 budget to prevent investor apathy, which may result in capital flight. According to ISA, the recent depreciation of the cedi may be attributed to the uncertainty surrounding the budget.
Investors don't like noise. Finance or fans of finance hate noise. Any little noise you make, the investor will pull out because you don't want to lose so much capital, so much money. Some resources, family income, family funds, their long-term investments or income they have invested, they don't want to lose their capital. So any noise, they pull out. And the point I'm making is that given what we've heard and seen, investors are going to react. And that's not good for us. So let's try and correct that quickly. You've seen recently the speedy rate of depreciation. It's not just capital flight, there could be other factors, but it's also a factor. Investors are withdrawing from the bond market, and I think we ought to be very careful the way we manage our economy.
You're still watching Business Live on GBC News. We move away from budgets, and nurturing and management of talent at the workplace has been identified as a catalyst to the success of businesses and competitiveness. Speaking at the National Mandatory Continuing Professional Education Program organized by the Chartered Institute of Administrators and Management Consultants Ghana, the National President of the Institute of Directors Ghana, Mr. Roxin Dogbega, charged members to uphold talents as a fulcrum to the success of businesses.
The Chartered Institute of Administrators and Management Consultants Ghana, CIAMC, is mandated to promote excellence in the practice of professional administration and management consultancy by examining, chartering and regulating its members. As part of measures aimed at maintaining the continuing professional education, all certified public accountants are expected to meet the set requirements. The continuing professional education program is therefore designed to ensure that the health information of professionals is enhanced through skills to expand their knowledge for their career. To this effect, chief executives, administrators, finance managers, accountants, human resource practitioners, corporate lawyers, managers, auditors, board members, and heads of departments are expected to belong to a professional body such as the CIAMC. As part of its annual meeting, new members were inducted and others were graduated. The head of civil service, Nana Kwesi Ejekujamana, described the training of members on the tenets and attributes of contemporary professional administration for effective practice as essential.
Please go and make a difference. You see, when you make a difference, then people will say, where did this come from?
so that you become a good ambassador for this institute.
The national president, Institute of Directors Ghana, Mr. Roxon Dogbuga, highlighted the immense benefits of managing talents at workplace.
That we need to have a talent management plan in place to be able to ensure we are attracting, retaining, developing the talents we need to be able to promote organizational excellence and success.
And that was Business, brought to you by MTN and Whirlpool. The news continues after this break. Stay with us.
It's the energy segment live on GBC News. Oil prices plunged more than 10%, the biggest daily drop since April 2020 due to the Omicron variant. According to energy analyst Dr. Yusuf Suleimana, there will be a decline in demand with the current restrictions on travel bans to some countries. It is, however, unclear how the new variant will impact negatively on fuel prices at the pumps. He spoke to GBC News.
To be a comfortable place for both players in the upstream and then the downstream. But it is early days yet to tell where these prices are going to settle. What we are seeing now, it is just an abundance of caution that most nations are exercising, that they don't know the extent of the transmissibility of this particular new variant called Omicron that is emanating from South Africa. So they're just blocking nations because they just want to make sure that they are able to contain this virus. So in the coming days and weeks, we should be able to see the impact the full characterization of this virus, and then we'll be able to see the impact that this virus is going to have on the demand. Right now, the demand drop that we are seeing is more speculative, but it's going to come to reality in terms of drop in demand as these travel restrictions take place. And yes, they are coming to take place. We're going to have quite a number of travel restrictions coming back, but that will determine the length of these travel restrictions. That will be determined by, how containable this virus.
42 years of establishment, the Provi police barrier in the whole West District has now been connected with electricity. The project, facilitated by the Electricity Company of Ghana, is expected to improve on security at the first police checkpoint in the Volta region on the Accra-Ho Highway stationed on a disputed land.
The project, estimated at about 101,000 Ghana cedis, involved the provision of a 50 kVA transformer, poles, overhead cables, single-phase meter, installation street light, and minor renovation works done on a duty post at Kpovi. The Kpovi barrier was mounted in 1979 during a conflict between the people of Peki and Chito over ownership of the land to serve as a buffer between the feuding factions and to respond swiftly to emergencies. The Volta Regional Police Commander, DCOP Odokwatin, said the barrier has played crucial roles in dealing with crime in the region. He said personnel at the barrier had to surmount the unavailability of electricity to charge their mobile phones, walkie-talkies, tasers, and other non-lethal gadgets, and unclear vision at night to discharge their duties. DCOP Odokwatin said the support from the ECG gives true meaning of the adage that security is a shared responsibility. The Volta and OT Regional General Manager of ECG, Mr. Emmanuel Lumo, explained that the project forms part of an initiative to make the Volta region a hub of excellent customer services, hoping it would bring relief to police officers who man the checkpoint.
That's it for the energy segment. We are back with some health news. Please stay. The health segment is brought to you by Lufat from Tobinco. The Ghana AIDS Commission says Ghana's fight against HIV and AIDS and the aim to end the scourge by 2030 is under serious threat due to the recent surge in new infections among the youth, mainly between the ages of 15 and 24. In an interview with GBC News, the Director General of the Ghana AIDS Commission, Dr. Cheme Chiahini, explained that many young people found in this range are mostly chasing adults for financial gains, adding that the Commission is collaborating with other stakeholders to sensitize and educate the youth on the dangers of these acts as part of activities to mark World AIDS Day on December 1. The Ghana AIDS Commission 2020 National Sentinel Survey report shows that nearly 19,000 new infections were recorded in persons aged 15 to 49. Of these, 28% are between 15 and 24 years, 83% of them being women. Out of the 5,211 young people who got infected, 4,325 are females, representing 83%, and 886 are males, representing 17% of the total number of young people infected. The Director General of the Ghana AIDS Commission, Dr. Cheme Chiahini, told GBC News that the high rate of infections among young people poses a big threat in the fight against HIV/AIDS. He explained that the high infection rate among the youth is because adult men and women were infecting the young ones they have sex with. He mentioned that while a few are being taken advantage of due to their vulnerabilities, many young people voluntarily have sex with older men and women for financial gains. Dr. Etiahine said, as part of activities to mark World AIDS Day on December 1, the Commission will embark on an education drive to sensitize young people about the dangers of casual sex. He said it was imperative to make young people aware of these facts and to understand that abstinence from sexual intercourse was the best way to protect themselves from HIV/AIDS. He, however, implored those who could not abstain to use condoms correctly at all times. Health brought to you by Lufat from Tobinco.